My daughter-in-law put a lock on my pantry in my own house. At dawn I removed it and left a note. I didn't say anything the day she locked my pantry. Not a word. I just stood there, staring at that small silver lock hanging from the handle. In my own house. The house I bought. The kitchen I built. The shelves I filled. Now, locked. Not by a stranger. By my daughter-in-law. It happened on a Tuesday. Quiet. Ordinary. The kind of day that doesn't warn you. Your life is about to change. I walked into the kitchen that morning. Same as always. Made tea. Water boiling. Cup ready. Then I reached for the pantry door. And that's when I saw it. The lock. First, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe something temporary. Maybe something broken. But then I noticed something else. A small piece of paper. Taped neatly to the door. I walked closer. Read it. And felt something shift inside me. Please don't open. We're organizing things for better control. Control. That word stayed with me. Because this wasn't about organizing. This was about power. I stood there for a long time. Longer than I should have. Because I was trying to understand something simple. How did we get here? 3 years ago. Everything was different. When Daniel married her. I welcomed her. Truly. Not just polite smiles. Not just formal kindness. I gave her a home. Because that's what it was. My home. After my husband passed. The house felt too big. Too quiet. So when Daniel asked, "Mom, can we stay with you for a while?" I didn't hesitate. Of course, I said. Because that's what mothers do. And for a while. It was good. Warm. Like a family again. But slowly. Things changed. Not all at once. Not obvious. Just small things. Subtle. She started rearranging the kitchen. First, I didn't mind. Make yourself comfortable, I told her. Then she started labeling things. Containers. Shelves. Drawers. Still, I said nothing. 'Cause I thought, she's just trying to help. Then came the rules. Let's keep snacks limited. Let's avoid sugar during weekdays. Let's organize mealtimes better. Always let's. But somehow, it never felt like a choice. It felt like instructions. Daniel didn't notice. Or maybe, he chose not to. Because every time I looked at him, he seemed tired. Distracted. Like someone who didn't want conflict. So I stayed quiet. Until the lock. Because that wasn't small anymore. That was a line. I picked up my phone. Considered calling Daniel. Then stopped. Because I already knew what he'd say. It's not a big deal, Mom. She's just trying to organize. Let's not make this bigger than it is. But it was big. Because it wasn't about food. It was about ownership. And suddenly, I didn't feel like the owner anymore. That afternoon, I waited. Sat in the living room. Watching the clock. Until they came home. Lisa walked in first. Calm. Collected. Like nothing had happened. "Hi," she said. I looked at her. Then asked, "Why is my pantry locked?" She didn't hesitate. Didn't look surprised. "We're organizing things better," she said. Same words as the note. Prepared. "That's not what I asked," I replied. She sighed slightly. Small. Controlled. "There were too many inconsistencies," she said. Inconsistencies. I repeated. "Yes," she said. "Things going missing. Items not where they should be." I stared at her. 'Cause now, this wasn't about organizing. This was an accusation. "Are you saying I take things from my own kitchen?" I asked. "I'm saying we need structure," she replied. Structure. Another word. Another excuse. Daniel walked in behind her. "Hey," he said. I looked at him. Waiting. Hoping. But he just stood there. Silent. "Did you agree to this?" I asked him. He hesitated. Then, "It's temporary," he said. Temporary. That word again. But something inside me didn't believe it. Because temporary things don't come with locks. That night, I didn't eat dinner. Not because I wasn't hungry, but because something else was growing inside me. Something quiet. Something patient. Something that had been building for months. Now, finally had a reason. I went to bed early. But I didn't sleep. I lay there. staring at the ceiling, thinking about every small moment I ignored. Every time I stayed quiet. Every time I told myself, it's not worth it. But this was worth it. Because this wasn't just a pantry anymore. This was my home. And I had let someone else turn me into a guest. Around 5 a.m. Before sunrise, I got up, quietly, carefully, walked into the kitchen. The house was still, silent. I stood in front of that pantry door again, looked at the lock, and this time, I didn't hesitate, because some lines, once crossed, don't get ignored, they get answered. I reached into the drawer, pulled out something simple, and within seconds, the lock was gone. The pantry door opened, just like it always had. But this time, it meant something different, because this wasn't about food. This was about taking something back. And before I walked away, I left something behind. A note, short, simple, but strong enough to change everything. My daughter-in-law put a lock on my pantry in my own house. At dawn I removed it and left a note. The note I left wasn't long. Didn't need to be, because sometimes, few words are enough. I placed it exactly where hers had been, right on the pantry door. Neat, centered, impossible to miss. Then I walked away, made my tea, sat down, and waited. I didn't go back to bed. Didn't pretend nothing had happened, because this time, something had changed. For the first time in months, I wasn't the one adjusting. I wasn't the one staying quiet. I was done being careful in my own home. Around 7 a.m., I heard movement upstairs. Footsteps. A door opening. Then another. Lisa was always the first to wake up. Routine. Structured. Predictable. Just like everything she tried to control. I took a slow sip of my tea. Calm. Because I knew what was coming. A few minutes later, she walked into the kitchen and stopped, right in front of the pantry. I didn't look at her immediately. I let the silence stretch. Then, what is this? Her voice. Tight. Controlled. But no longer calm. I turned slowly. Looked at her. Then at the pantry. The door, I said simply. It's open. Her eyes snapped to me. You broke the lock, she asked. I nodded once. Yes. No apology. No hesitation. Just truth. She stared at me, like she wasn't expecting that answer. You had no right, she said. That made me pause. Just for a second. Because the irony was almost unbelievable. No right. I repeated quietly. She stepped closer. Now more tense. More direct. We agreed on a system, she said. I let out a small breath. 'Cause now, we were finally saying it out loud. System. You made a system, I corrected. Her jaw tightened. For this household, she insisted. I shook my head slowly. No, I said. This is my household. Silence. Sharp. Immediate. Because that was the line. The real one. The one we had both been avoiding. Just then, Daniel walked in. Still half asleep. Morning, he said. Then he saw My daughter-in-law put a lock on my pantry in my own house. At dawn I removed it and left a note. Then maybe it doesn't. The words hung in the air. Sharp. Final. For a moment, no one spoke. Because none of us expected it to go this far. Not over a pantry. But deep down, we all knew. This was never about a pantry. Daniel looked at me like he didn't recognize me. Mom, what are you saying? He asked. I met his eyes. Calm. Steady. I'm saying, I replied quietly. If living together means I lose control of my own home. A pause. Then maybe we shouldn't be living together. Lisa didn't move. But I saw it. That small shift in her expression. Because this wasn't what she expected. She expected resistance. Arguments. Emotion. Not clarity. Are you asking us to leave? Daniel said. That question carried weight. Years of it. I didn't answer right away. Because this wasn't something I said lightly. I'm asking for respect, I said finally. A pause. And if that's not possible. I let the sentence hang. Daniel looked down. Processing. Struggling. Lisa stepped forward. More controlled now. more careful. We've been contributing to this house, she said. I nodded. Yes, I said. You have. Another pause. But contribution doesn't mean control. Silence. Because that line cut through everything. Daniel rubbed his forehead again. Why is this turning into something so big? He asked. I looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't soften the answer. Because I let it stay small for too long. That hit him, because he knew it was true. All the little things, I continued. The changes, the rules, the decisions. A pause. I ignored them. Lisa didn't interrupt this time. I told myself it didn't matter, I said. But it did. Every single time. The room was completely still now. Because this wasn't an argument anymore. This was everything I hadn't said, finally being said. I gave you space here, I continued. I welcomed you. But somewhere along the way, For more inspiring and heart-touching stories like this, please subscribe to our channel. My voice softened slightly. I disappeared. Daniel looked up at that. Really looked. And I saw it. The realization. Small. But real. That's not what we wanted, he said quietly. I know, I replied. Because I did. This wasn't intentional. But impact doesn't always need intention. Lisa finally spoke again. But her tone had changed. Less sharp. More uncertain. We were just trying to make things better, she said. I nodded. I believe that, I said. A pause. But better for who? Silence. Does that question didn't have an easy answer. For everyone, she said finally. I tilted my head slightly. Then why didn't it feel that way to me? I asked. No response. Because feelings don't lie. They just get ignored. Daniel stepped closer. Okay, he said. Let's just fix this. Fix. Such a simple word. But fixing something means admitting it's broken. How? I asked. He hesitated. Looked at Lisa. Then back at me. We talk more, he said. I nodded slowly. That's a start. Lisa looked down for a moment, thinking. Then she said something different. I shouldn't have locked it. The room shifted. Just slightly. Because that was the first real admission. I looked at her. And for a moment, I didn't see control. I saw someone who finally understood. It wasn't just the lock, I said gently. She nodded. I know. A pause. Then she added. I went too far. Daniel exhaled slowly, like he had been holding that in. Yeah, he said quietly. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't heavy. It was clearing. Like something stuck. Was finally moving. I took a step back. Not away. Just enough. I don't want this to end badly, I said. Neither of them spoke. But they were listening now. I want us to live here peacefully, I continued. But that only works. I looked at both of them. If we respect each other's space. Daniel nodded immediately. Yes. Of course. Lisa followed. More slowly. But sincerely. Yes, she said. Another pause. Then we start there, I said. Simple. Clear. But something still lingered. Because even though we said the right things, trust doesn't come back instantly. It rebuilds. Slowly. Carefully. And sometimes, it needs one more push. That came later that night. When I went back into the kitchen, the pantry was still open. But something new was there. Everything inside had been rearranged again. Neatly. Carefully. But this time, without labels. Without restrictions. Just shared. And sitting on the shelf was something small. A box of tea. My tea. The one she had moved weeks ago. Picked it up. Held it in my hand. And for the first time in a long time, the kitchen felt like mine again. But deep down, I knew something. This wasn't the end. It was just the moment. Everything finally came into the open. My daughter-in-law put a lock on my pantry in my own house. At dawn I removed it. And left a note. That night, the house was quiet again. But not the same kind of quiet. This one felt different. Not heavy. Not tense. Just thoughtful. I stood in the kitchen for a long time. Looking at the pantry. Open. The way it should be. But even with that, something inside me hadn't settled yet, because this wasn't just about fixing one moment. It was about everything that came before it, and whether it would happen again. The next morning, I woke up early, out of habit, out of years of routine. I walked into the kitchen, half expecting something to feel off again. But it didn't. The pantry was still open. Nothing moved. Nothing locked. Just normal. I made tea, sat down, and for the first time in days, I felt a small sense of peace. Not complete, but real. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps. Daniel. He walked in slowly, like he wasn't sure how this conversation would go. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I replied. He stood there for a second, then sat down across from me. "I've been thinking," he said. I nodded. "So have I." A small pause. Then he sighed. "I should have said something earlier," he admitted. That mattered. More than he probably realized. "Yeah," I said softly. Not angry. Just honest. "I didn't think it was a big deal at first," he continued. I looked at him. "That's how these things start," I said. "Small. Easy to ignore. Until they're not." He nodded slowly. "I guess I didn't want to get in the middle," he said. I almost smiled. "You were already in the middle," I replied. That hit him. Because it was true. Silence settled between us. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was understanding. "I don't want you to feel like a guest here," he said finally. I looked at him. "Then don't let me be treated like one," I replied. He nodded. Firm this time. "I won't," he said. That was new. Not avoidance. Not hesitation. A decision. A few minutes later, Lisa walked in. She paused when she saw us sitting together. Then slowly, she joined us. "Morning," she said. "Morning," I replied. There was a moment of silence. Not awkward. Just careful. Then she spoke. "I've been thinking too," she said. I nodded. Listening. "I think I tried to take control because I didn't feel settled," she admitted. That surprised me. Not because of what she said, but because she said it. "This wasn't really my home," she continued. A pause. "And I guess I tried to make it feel like one." I watched her closely. "'Cause now, we were getting somewhere real. But I went about it the wrong way," she added. I nodded slowly. "Yes," I said. No anger. No blame. Just truth. "I didn't realize how it made you feel," she said. "I know," I replied. As if she had. This wouldn't have happened. Another pause. Then she said something. That changed everything. "I'm sorry." Simple. Quiet. Real. I held her gaze. And after a moment, I nodded. "Thank you," I said. Because that's all it needed to be. Not dramatic. Not forced. Just honest. The three of us sat there for a while. Talking. Not arguing. Not defending. Just talking. About boundaries. About space. About respect. And for the first time in a long time, felt like we were actually a family again. Not perfect. But real. That evening, we had dinner together. No tension. No careful silence. Just normal conversation. And in between all of that, I noticed something small, but important. Lisa asked me where I kept something in the kitchen. She didn't move it. Didn't decide on her own. She asked. And that was respect. Later that night, as I walked past the pantry again, I paused. Looked inside. Everything was still there. Organized. Neat. But not controlled. Shared. The way it should be. I turned off the kitchen light. And as I walked back to my room, I realized something. This was never about a lock. It was about a line. And once I finally stood up for it, everything changed. Because sometimes, people don't realize they've crossed a boundary until you show them where it is. And once you do, they have a choice. Respect it or lose their place. Thankfully, this time, they chose to respect it. And that made all the difference. For more inspiring and heart-touching stories like this, please subscribe to our channel.